Cheick Doucoure is on the agenda. Not looking good. Officially, the rumors have started, as you guys can see from the title. And also, some players that we've been linked with, there's still more stories about it. But we'll delve into it much more. And also, some potential loan signings and more. Let's get started with the latest edition of Palace News. What's going on, people? Hopefully you've all had a brilliant day. Welcome to Palace News. I'm doing it solo today, but as always, I want you to get involved. So make sure to leave down your comments and thoughts in the comment section down below as I'm going through all these rumors. And also, if you have any questions, send them through as well, and I'll try to read them out. If it's not related to transfers, I'll try to read them out towards the end of the show. What's going on, people? What's going on? Let's look at the chat. Hopefully, you've all had a great weekend. I'll be honest, I've had a tiring weekend. Right now, I'm on 5 hours sleep, but it's consistency. That's what we're here for. And unfortunately, the news that we're going to start off with is not really a great news to start off with when you've had 5 hours of sleep, because you want to start off with something positive, but it is what it is. But we'll go through it in just a second. I'm looking through the chat, and there's a lot about the player that we're going to be talking about. Of course, Cheick Doucoure, who has been rumored to be of interest to Liverpool Football Club. And that is according to the Football Insider 24/7. And they said the following: that Liverpool are exploring a potential move for Palace midfielder Cheick Doucoure. Our underrated gem that we've had is finally getting noticed. Unfortunately for our sake. But it was going to happen. You can't be as good as Cheick Doucoure and go unnoticed. But the first official rumor of Cheick Doucoure, when I say official, the first sort of rumor that I've heard so far since Doucoure joined the club has started. It's official today, 17th of July. Cheick Doucoure being linked with a move away from the club. Now, there's a lot to talk about this. There's a lot to talk about. Price tag. I want to talk about price tag. How much is Cheick Doucoure worth? And also, if Doucoure was to leave, how much of a big miss would that be to this Palace squad? Because I don't think we've seen the best of Doucoure yet. I feel like Doucoure in the upcoming season is going to improve on what we've seen last season. Last season, he even improved from the start of the season towards the end of the season. The disciplinary side of things improved massively under Cheick Doucoure. He wasn't getting as suspended. Well, he wasn't picking up yellow cards under Roy Hodgson, so he managed to improve that area. And plus, last season, Doucoure was playing with only one midfielder at certain points of the season. Let's not forget that. And he still held it down. I think he's a fantastic midfielder and one of the most underrated Palace players out there, because no one talks about him. But is he going to be underrated for so much longer? I don't know. That's a question that maybe you guys can answer, because it seemed like finally news outlets anyways are starting to realize what Cheick Doucoure can do on the pitch. And next season, I think, is only going to improve. But look, let's go through some of the comments. And let's start off with the price tag. How much do you guys think Cheick Doucoure is worth? I've seen some crazy ones. Maybe it's not crazy, depending on how you view things. £90 million. I've seen £250 million. I've seen crazy figures. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. For me, Doucoure, if we're being realistic, if we're looking at what we're trying to do in terms of buying these players for cheaper, sell them on for higher value after developing them, I think Cheick Doucoure, I don't think we've developed them into the full potential in the first place. So I think we should still keep him, because I think his price tag will go up. But if we're being realistic, look, this is the first time he's been reported with a move away from the club. I still feel like Cheick Doucoure overall is underrated by the neutrals. I don't think he has got the hype of other players at Palace's squad. And I think that's pretty much clear. I don't think that's anything controversial. So for me, Cheick Doucoure, I would say the realistic, if you want to sell him, if the club genuinely want to sell him to cash in on him and, build a squad further, then I think realistically, £60 million or below is unacceptable. It has to be £60 million. But saying that, the fair value for him, if you don't want to sell him, and how much is worth in today's market after you're seeing, the Declan Rices go for about £150 million, I think Doucoure should be around the 70 to 80 million pound. But unfortunately for Doucoure, and well, it depends how you view things, but he hasn't got the hype. I think that's one thing that we can agree on. I don't think Doucoure gets hyped up by other Premier League fans. Paulinho is the next one. So after Rice is left, now it's on Paulinho. That's where the main focus is. Doucoure's time hasn't even come yet. And once he does get that hype, I think his value will naturally increase as well over time. So, you know, I still feel like it's early days. I don't think we should sell Doucourè. But then again, if we had to sell one of these assets and I had to give you the option of whether you would like to sell Gate, Anderson, or Doucourè, which one would you pick? Because for me, I would still most likely pick Joachim Anderson. I think Doucourè could be the heart of that midfield. And I've look, the one signing that we did make, Jefferson Lerma, the reason why I'm excited is because I want to see the full potential of our players. Lerma, Doucourè, Eze. That is what I want to see next season. So selling Doucourè now would just be like, I mean, we're basically there. We reach our destination and we turn around. Like, we're nearly there. Like, let's at least go with this midfield, start this midfield for the new season, and see how it goes, because I think this midfield is perfectly balanced with all three of them. And if you sell Doucourè, then you have to sort out another central midfielder. And how much of a good midfielder can you find for that price tag? Because as we know with West Ham, you know, they've got a problem now because teams know they have £100 million. But let me go through some of the comments. I want to see. So Red says £70 million for Doucourè. And Bullock says Doucourè was our entire central midfield. 100% agree. At a certain point of the season, especially towards the start of the season or midway point, it was just literally Doucourè. Like, Doucourè was our only midfielder and he still held it down. Dan says £50 million easy. He's not for sale, says Richard. So Richard wouldn't even consider selling him, I'm assuming. Anderson, sadly, so in terms of who people would like to sell, 70. I'm seeing lots of 70s. Look, for me, I think £60 million is realistic. Maybe a team pays 70, but even £60 million now, you know, honestly, I don't know what team will pay £60 million for Cheick Doucourè. I don't know if I love him to bits. I think he's got the talent, by the way, but I just don't think he's got that he hasn't built up that name for himself yet in the Premier League. That's the only downside. So maybe £50 million teams might go for him, but 60 to 70 million pound, that's still a high price tag. It's crazy how a few pundits and papers out if South London know about Cheick. Yeah, look, no one really knows about. Well, people do, of course, know about Cheick. It's not literally Palace fans, but he's not for the casual Premier League fans. Let's just say that the casual Premier League fans haven't caught on to Cheick Doucourè yet, and he gets underestimated. Mitch saying even the title of this video has his name spelled wrong. Pretty sure it should be Enoch. Yeah, potentially. As I said, I'm on 5 hours sleep, but I'll look at it again. Colin says we need to stop talking about selling our best players before we've used them to progress ourselves. Fed up selling and going backwards. Need to add them need to add them, then only we can progress. Well, so this is the dilemma. Let's say in a scenario that we're in right now, we don't have money. When do we start selling these players to build on? Or do we just not sell these players? Because I'm pretty sure if we went into the new season with the squad as it is right now, I think Lerma's a fantastic signing on a free transfer. I don't think many people will be happy. So at what point do we go for it then? That's another thing about this, because we need to start getting used to selling. And I've said this even with when Jordan Ayew was linked with Saudi. I mean, Jordan Ayew is a fantastic player for us. And I think he's massively underrated, by the way, by Palace fans, because, you know, he puts in a shift whenever he plays. The only thing that keeps Jordan Ayew behind, if he had end product, Jordan Ayew would not be at Crystal Palace. I think he's got great ball control. His decision making ain't great. Yes, I do get that. But for example, for a player like Jordan Ayew, every player needs to have a price. For me, it would be like something like £50 million, considering he has 1 year left on still on his age. I think Cheick Doucourè and Joachim Anderson and Mark Gate, all these players need to have a price, and we need to make sure that we need to prove it. Well, not we, because I'm not involved in the transfers, but I think the club need to prove it to the fans that they could do with this model. Because right now we've only done one sale, and that was Wan-Bissaka, £50 million. You could say we invested it into the academy in terms of the facilities, so it's worked out there, but we haven't yet sold one of these big names, big stars with potential for that high price tag and brought in another player. And at what point are we going to do that? Now, I would love to keep them all, but if the finances are tight, then you have to consider the sale of some of these players. Unfortunately, that's how it might work, because Brighton do as well. Anything north of 50 and it's probably gone, unfortunately. I agree, Mitch, as well. I don't think the club would want to sell him, but then again, who offers £50 million for Cheick Doucourè? That's another thing as well. There's like, we can talk about these figures, but who's going to realistically be out there spending that much on Cheick Doucourè? Swamp says, think of what he'll be worth next season after playing a blinder for us this season. I'm telling you, next season, I'm not even just talking about what happened last season. I think Doucouré's game is going to elevate for two reasons. I think the Lerma sign is going to elevate it. Hamada potentially coming off the bench. I think our midfield is going to be stronger next season than it was in the previous season, despite us losing some players. Because the players that's going to step up, such as Lerma, Hamada we didn't see. Maybe Ozo. I'm not going to consider Ozo yet, but he could play a role as well. I think it's going to be improvement in terms of our squad depth. On top of that, you still have the likes of Will Hughes and Jairo Riedewald as well. So for me, if Doucourè has the better players around him, then I think his game will naturally elevate. And on top of that, and obviously he's in the Premier League, so he's getting more and more used to it as the games go by. So I think his price tag can go up. But then again, I think next season, people will start to notice who Cheick Doucourè is and what he can do. I think right now, we know it, but I don't think other teams know to the extent of how good he could be or is right now. Crane says if we can just not sell our core players for one more season, will be brilliant. Yeah, look, I said it as well. I think we need to. It'll be fantastic to keep this core, but we also need to strengthen two positions. I don't think one of these positions is going to happen for me. It has to be right back because yes, we've got two right backs there, but I don't think they're Premier League quality in terms of what you expect from a modern fullback and a striker. Now, let's say we don't even improve the right back situation. As long as we get a striker and we keep the core as it is and bring back Wilf as well, which is another week, people. It's another week. Let's see what happens this week with Wilf. I think that will still be an improvement to what we've had previously. I just think we need a quality striker. But then again, are we going to spend the money on a striker? I just don't see it happening because I'm getting mixed feelings about this whole situation, about our budget. Like, we get linked with such as Matheus Franco, for example, 25 million euros or 20 million euros. And then we hear from another people that they say that we don't have money. So which one is it? I mean, we clearly have a bit of money, but how much money do we actually have? For the money that we do have, I think Franco would be a nice signing. I'm going a bit off tangent, but Franco would be a nice signing because I think Zaha would end up playing up front. I know that's debatable. I know some of you lot don't think he's a striker, but I think that might solve the striker situation. But the striker, I mean, we can't start the season with Mateta and Edouard. We just can't. That'd be a failure. I'm sorry, that'd be a failure. We've known this from last season that we've had to improve that position. If any, I'd see Gahey go over Zhao or Cheick. He's worth double Zhao, and Zhao isn't half the player. If we added right back a proper striker to the side, we'll progress. No good having a motor with only certain parts working. I'll go through some more comments. Doucourè is only just learning English. How is he going to learn Scouse? Once he goes there, it's going to be like, what on earth is going on? Trust me. If he's struggling with the London accent, then he'll probably struggle with Scouse much more. Richard says, I feel like we're still building our squad to get stronger. It takes time, 100%. I think there are deals being done as we speak. Korean, I do think there is, but Purchase for me, that's a deal that I think happens. I think that's behind the scenes, and maybe we've had them agreements, but that's if Joachim Andersen or Mark Gahey ends up leaving. But I think the one deal that I can see realistically being done potentially is Matheus Franco, because we've been linked with him for ages, and last week we spoke about it as well. So that's one to watch out for this week. But look, that's it for Cheick Doucourè. Let me know what you guys think in the comment sections as well if you're watching on replay. What do you guys think about the Doucourè situation? Should we cash in on him now? Do we wait? How much is he worth? I think that's the biggest question, because right now I'm seeing figures from 50 to 60 to 70 to 80. Everyone's got different views, and we're talking about 30 to 40 million pound swings. So is that it? Is 50 the minimum? Is 80 the maximum? Realistically, how much can we get from him? For me, I said it, people, I'd like to I'd love us to keep the core that we have right now and just build on it with another striker. But we need money. Money talks. And right now, if we don't have money, then we're going to have to cash in on one of these players. And who's that player? I don't think it should be Doucourè. I think it should be one of those defenders, and Mark Gahey and Joachim Andersen. I think it should be Joachim Andersen, I'll be honest. Not even Mark Gahey. But look, let's move on to the next bit of rumour. And that is on Everton's Demarai Gray. I'm tired. I'm literally tired, both talking about Demarai Gray, and I'm tired myself. According to Sky Sports, Crystal Palace are stepping up their interest in Everton's Demarai Gray as the Eagles look to strengthen the ranks for the new season. At what point do we stop talking about Demarai Gray? It's not even just Demarai Gray. Some of these names that we've been talking about, it just hasn't gone away. It hasn't gone away. At what point do you just stop with the talking and continue with the action. Now, I've said it before. I think this Demarai Gray thing is a potential Zaha replacement. Saying that, I mean, what? Why do we sign Matheus Franco? There's so many questions in my head about this. The left winger position, the up front position. How would Gray fit? I've said it before. I'll say it again. Regardless of if Wilf signs, we can definitely do with another left winger. We could do with one. I know Jordan and I started playing down the left-hand side, but realistically, in terms of quality, we could do with another option behind Wilf. Now, is Demarai Gray the answer? I'm not too sure, because if we get Matheus Franco, his position is not set in stone. So he's pretty versatile. Plays, sometimes plays as a shadow striker, as like a 10, sometimes midfield, sometimes out wide. So I think we're buying him off technical abilities. If we get Matheus Franco, would we need Demarai Gray? I think we're just having these plays behind the scenes. It's interesting that Sky Sports are talking about as well now. I think we're having these players lined up just like per shirts. I think it's a case of if Wilf doesn't sign or if Franco doesn't work, Demarai Gray is there. Like, it's a way of the club saying, don't worry, we got a shortlist. We got a shortlist to solve this problem if we do have a potential problem. I think it's nothing more than that. I'll be surprised if Demarai Gray joins Palace, because he's been linked with Saudi move as well. And realistically, would you guys even want Gray? I'm pretty sure we spoke about it before, but some of you who's maybe new to the channel, you joined this week or a few days ago, maybe you haven't had your opinion. Would you want Demarai Gray at Palace as like a second option, or even as a Wilf replacement? Do you think he's good enough to replace Wilf? Personally, I think he's got talent, but I don't think I would take him as a Wilf replacement. I think that would be a bit anticlimax, especially from what we've seen from Zaha. I would expect a better replacement, but that'll be interesting. Andy says, how much do you think these names are said just to make news with no substance? Well, there is probably a few of them, but Demarai Gray, I would say there must be something going on behind the scenes, because we've been linked with Demarai Gray for ages. It's not just this week. It's not just last week. Demarai Gray seemed like he's been on Dougie's radar, just like Matheus Franco has. So I think he rates him. And I think that's why we're potentially, lining him up as a potential Wilf replacement. So I don't, some of these names, as I've said it all the time here, we're just looking at what the stories are saying, what the papers are saying, what the journalists are saying, what's going on with Palace. It doesn't mean that these players are going to sign. If that was the case, right now, our squad would make Chelsea's squad just look absolutely small. Where they've got 30 players, we'll probably have 50 or 60 players if every player that we were linked with, we signed them. But one of these players, Demarai Gray, I do think there's something about it, especially behind the scenes, considering how long he's been linked with. And I see similarities between other players as well that we've been linked with as well. Loso says Gray is good. That's a very good question from Geico. How much is Everton looking to get for Gray? How much do you guys think we should be willing to pay for Gray? Look, Everton are rivals in the Premier League. They're going to be a side. There's a side that's been struggling as well. I don't think they would want to sell Demarai Gray to Crystal Palace just for absolutely nothing. And that's where it gets a bit interesting. How much would Everton be demanding for Gray? I'm not too sure. I'm just off the top of my head right now, tired D, how I'm thinking. Maybe £50 million is fair, but maybe Everton fans start laughing at that. Maybe that's too high, too low. I don't know. I'm trying to just think that it's another Premier League club that he would join. I don't think they'll sell him for £5 to £10 million. I think £15 million is fair, but then again, it might even be 2025. You don't know. You don't know what Everton wants. 12 million. Says Isaac, nothing more. Everton are piss poor. They'll take something well under his value. And I think what is interesting about Demarai Gray, as things are coming into my head, Everton are struggling financially. Well, they should be struggling financially, FFP and all of that nonsense. Nowadays, we don't know. On paper, yes, they are struggling, but in reality, they're still somehow managed to sign players. But if they're struggling, then they need a bit of cash. Maybe they won't be as tight in terms of the demand for Demarai Gray as some of us may expect. So we might be able to get a deal on him if he was to join. But look, Sky Sports, they're talking about it as well now. And the most important thing is to let the Will thing end. And then afterwards, if there's no demand, look, it wouldn't surprise me if Wilf was to resign a new contract. He would stay at Palace for another 3 to 4 years. I don't think it'll be interesting. Then if Demarai Gray starts popping up continuously, then there's probably something about it. But I think me thinking off the top of my head, I think there's something about the Zaha situation that also makes the Demarai Gray situation interesting, because I could see him as a club using him as a potential replacement, especially for depth or maybe as a starting option. Forest in talks with Samantha, well done, Texter. Well, Texas selling. He's been selling. I mean, Bournemouth. If you have to give a round of applause to a team that's doing business, Bournemouth been doing their business and they look a bit more dangerous. Bullock says Everton are piss poor, they'll take something under his value. I think I read that already. Don't think Gray would be a big price. Agree. Gray is good, but he's not a Zaha replacement. I think I agree with Toby there as well. I'll take him as like a depth option, even if Zaha was to stay. That depends once again on Franco. If Franco was to join, then probably no. But I just don't want him as a Zaha replacement. I think he has some very good moments. I think he has some good moments at Everton as well. But it's about, he just has good run of form. And I think he's got good technique as well. I watched him in the Gold Cup for Jamaica. And his final ball is very good. He's solid dribbling. He's not a bad player, by the way, Demarai Gray. I'm not saying he's a bad player. But then again, you would expect someone like Franco or someone a bit more exciting than Demarai Gray to replace Zaha if he was to leave. Crane says, didn't they buy him for like £1.5 million? I think so because I remember people talking about that being one of the bargains of the season because he was doing well. Josh says Franco, Elise, Wilf, Jess with Ayo as emergency is fine without Gray. If Wilf goes, Gray is acceptable. Okay, agree. Bollock says we should have kept James McCarthy receipt. Mind you, they might have yellows. James McCarthy. Where is James McCarthy? Where is he right now? Is he still playing football? He went over to Scotland. I think he's still at Scotland. But yeah, look, Demarai Gray, I don't want to talk too much about it. I think that's enough of Demarai Gray. It's Sky Sports are talking about as well, and it's one of those things that hasn't gone away yet. So yeah. But if you guys are enjoying the stream, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new here to see more Palace content as well, people, as we go through the latest stories today. Shambles FC. I wouldn't call it Shambles FC. I'll call it Interest FC. I think that's what we are, Interest FC. Just love talking, but no action. And yeah, I think one of the reasons I'm not gonna. I think the business, of course, we want to see business done earlier, and I think for certain positions, yes, we can. But technically, what positions do we need to improve on? The striker position, and I think as funny as it may sound, I think the striker position still depends on Zaha. So the club are, in a way, I do feel bad for the club. Funny enough, I'm saying this because right back is not going to happen, right? That's fine. You can get onto them about the right back situation if you wanted to improve. But until the Zaha situation is clear, which is not yet, he hasn't made up his decision. As far as we know, right now on Monday, 10 p.m. What can the club really do? Because can you blame the club for not finding or getting a left winger or striker when you don't know what's going to happen with arguably one of your best players, if not your best player at the team? You don't know if he's going to come back or not. So until that situation is clear, the club is just being held back. And I think that's the case. Some people do say that the club like to make transfers towards August and towards the end of the window. Cool, you have a fair point, but it wasn't like that under Vieira. When Vieira first joined, we made business early on and we had these players for pre-season. So I just think honestly, right now, I think the situation why we've only got Lerma right now is because one, we don't need to sign too many players. And the players that we need to improve on, it depends on whether one of these players is going to come back, and that is Wilf. And right now, we still don't know. So it's a bit hard. I think that's why we've been linked with some of these players and actually not gone for it. But it seemed like Franco, we might be getting him regardless of Wilf. Well, based on reports anyways last week, but that could easily change and we might even pull out of that. I'm pretty sure every fan base thinks the same. If you obsess over every rumor, it always look like you're linked with 10 times players that you sign. 100% agree. Inter can't afford Balogun. So Balogun is actually linked with Inter Milan. 40 million euros. That's one player that I would actually love, because I said it before and I'll say it again. Well, striker, you need to pay a premium. That's simple as that. You need to pay a premium. And unless we do pay that premium, we're going to end up with players like Edouard and Mateta. It might work out, it might not. It's a risky approach that hasn't worked out so far. And I said this in previous Palace News episodes, and I'll say it again. If you end up spending £50 million there for striker, and then following season spend another 15 or £10 million, that's £25 million just gone there. And if you end up doing the same thing this season, £10 million on a striker rather than going for quality, that's about 35 million over 3 seasons. I'd rather save that money and spend it on a No, I wouldn't. Yeah, quality striker and pay the premium if we're serious about strikers. I would the strikers. You just can't go cheap. It's just so risky. But Balogun, then again, even if you pay a premium, it doesn't mean it's going to be successful. But there's of course there's something about his game that we don't have in our strikers. That's what it is right now. Andy says we need to give Zaha a deadline. You have till and we move on. So when would that deadline be? Look, for me, I love Wilf to bits. I said it on Twitter yesterday. I think I'm more disappointed than angry about the situation. I get it. He's had things going on behind the scenes, but realistically, we need to know now. Like, we need to know. I don't want to talk about Wilf staying or going, or I don't want to talk about that right now. I want to give my reaction to what's happened. It's Monday. We're in the following. It should have been sorted last week. But hopefully, people, it does get sorted this week because it's not that long till the season starts. And there's a few people that's been saying, I don't know how true this is, that his current agent, his contract with his current agent runs out at the end of this month. So he's waiting till then due to finances and how much you have to pay to his current agent. And so, but I mean, if I don't, I'll love it if he stayed and he's still announced on 1st of August, but that's a bit scary. If this Zaha's situation goes on to, I don't know how true this is, but if this situation is true and he's waiting till the 31st of July, which I don't think it is true, by the way. I don't think that is the case, but some people, they think that. That'll be very annoying to wait that long. I guess we'll be happy because he stayed, depending on how you view the situation, but I need this solved ASAP. Agree, but it's holding us up. This is disrespectful to Palace, says Andy. Josh also says all these links and no right back's criminal. But Josh, it doesn't surprise me one bit, bro. I've said this before. Signing the final Klein and Joe Ward on new deals, you can forget about the right back situation. I think it's piss poor from the club, but it is what it is. Can't let Zaha go. Palace relegated in 2 to 3 years. If so, I think this is, if we were to ever let Zaha go, I think this would be the best time, controversially, to let him go. I don't think it's going to be as straightforward as, we can just do without Wilf. I think we will 100% miss Wilf, but I think our squad is as balanced as it's ever been since we got promoted to the Premier League. We've got quality everywhere. I mean, we've got creative players like Elise and Eze, for example, that we can rely on. So, yes, Zaha will be a miss, but I don't think it's a case of if Zaha was to leave that we'll go and get relegated, because we've got other options now that we didn't have in previous seasons where it was just literally Wilf as our creative player. And that's changed now. Even in midfield, we've improved that. Doucourè, Lerma. So I think we've got a balanced squad to deal with that Wilf, but he will 100% be a big miss. And I still want him to stay. As always, we'll leave it until the end of the window. So I know one to confirm Wilf is saying to cheer up the fans. I don't think I'll be happy with that. Maybe some fans will be happy. I think Wilf staying would be fantastic. But if we leave it last minute and don't bring in anyone, that would be poor. But I don't think that would be the case. Surely not. Rainbow says if Zaha leaves Palace, we'll sell off the talent next few years and then never purchase anything. Relegation certain, unfortunately. Well, if we were to sell our talent, I don't think the club will be that dumb to not purchase players. Of course, we haven't seen it so far, but surely not. Surely not. If one of Eze was to leave or Gay was to leave, we're seeing it already. For example, per shirts, if Anderson or Gay was to leave, there's already a replacement there. I don't think it will be the case, or we don't replace them. So I'm not really worried about that. But the question is, can we replace them to the adequate level that we need to? Because the likes of Gay, Anderson, Eze, Elise, there's a reason why we put so high of price tags, because they're worth that much. There's also that situation that you sell one of these big assets, you might not even be able to replace them at certain quality, and then you start struggling. So you have to be very careful about it. Gaika says, remember when Zaha was out injured and we were saying, will he even get back in the team? Him leaving isn't the end of the world. I agree. It's not the end of the world, but I still want him to stay. But look, people, let me move on to the final bit of story. Then if you have any questions, put the Q at the start of the question and I will answer them before we wrap up the show. As always, if you're enjoying it, people, if you can smash the like button, it helps us out massively. In terms of growing the channel. Thank you for all your support so far as well. It's been fantastic during the off season as we're bringing these Palace news. And also, if you're new here and you want to see more Palace content, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn the notification bell on. But before we go through some of the questions that you guys might have, let's talk about the final bit of story, and that is from the Press and Journal UK, and that is on Killian Phillips. So the Crystal Palace midfielder Phillips has emerged as a possible transfer target for Aberdeen. Crystal Palace midfielder Killian Phillips is reportedly a loan target for the Dons. So Killian Phillips, out on loan potentially Scotland. There isn't really much to say about this situation. I wouldn't be against it. I think realistically in midfield, next up, I think Kylian Phillips got talent, but next up in midfield is most likely going to be Oza, of course. And we're talking about Will Hughes, we're talking about Doucourè, Lerma, Eze. So I don't think you had that much game time. And as I said it many times, some of these youngsters are not going to make it. As good as they may be for the academy, as good as they may be out on loan in League One, League Two, they might not make it in the Premier League. The most important thing that we can do is sell them on for value. We develop them, so let's sell them on for value. So if Kylian Phillips goes to Aberdeen, I think that would be a very good experience, and he could prove himself whether he can do it at the top level. But yeah, I think a loan move would be sensible, and then from there we can look forward. I wouldn't be against this at all. I wouldn't be against it at all, and I think it'll be a right move for him, just like other youngsters that's leaving out on loan early as well. Aberdeen would be a good loan, says Dean. 100% agree. I think players are wary of the top six, stifling the talent. Young upcomers want game time. Exactly, because I remember, I think it was yesterday or today, that Elise was linked with Arsenal. And yeah, I don't think Elise would go to Arsenal to sit on their bench. So, you know, I think that ideally for these young talents, what they need to do the best is just play football. It sounds so simple, but that's the case. Look at Gahey. He didn't have to play for England to go. You didn't have to join Arsenal or Chelsea or one of these top six sides to play for England. He's done that with Palace. Why? Because he's playing and he's performing at the highest level. Look at Eze. He's performing at the highest level and playing as well. So I think that's the main positive out of the situation, that players can play for the likes of Palace, which we haven't seen in the past, because right now Zaha would be an England international if that was the case. Funny enough, the manager that was in charge of that situation is our manager right now. But yeah, so I'm happy about that. It just shows, it gives a bit more power to the smaller sides as well. And it gives assurances to these younger players that they don't need to move away from the club. So yeah, let's go through some of the questions before we wrap up, people. Let's see. If you have any questions, send them through like Crane has done with a Q dot. Steve, I've seen Van der Beek linked with us once. Your thoughts? We were linked with him previously. I don't think Van der Beek pretty much makes any sense to us at this point. I think our midfield is sorted. So yeah, and we've got, I think we could do with another creative player in a way, but Van der Beek is going to want to come to Palace to play. He's not going to come to Palace to sit on the bench. And also his Premier League time hasn't been that encouraging in the first place. So I wouldn't look too much into it. But yeah, I think our midfield is sorted and we don't need to waste time and money for Van der Beek. We're pretty stacked in midfield as well. Does Van der Beek play on the wing? I wouldn't really see him as a winger in the Premier League, but potentially. Then again, I wouldn't want him as a replacement for Will out on the wing. Beat can't seem to get a game anyway. He must go. He goes. Must be a reason. Exactly. 100% agree. Zan says, you think it's possible for us to have a better squad next season without Zaha? Oh, that's a very good question. And the reason why I say that is a better squad next season without Zaha. I think it's hard. I don't think we'll have a better squad without him. But look, it depends on the main thing. Look, if we get rid of Zaha, bring in Franca and bring in Balogun, I think then you can have that debate. But realistically, that's not going to happen, is it? It's going to be, one of the two. Get rid of Zaha, probably bring in Demarai Gray and Franca at this current moment of time. But people at times I feel like underrate Wilf. I know he's had injuries and I know he's had his problems, as of late. But I think he's still a massive player for us. I wouldn't say we'll have a better squad without Wilf because I don't think we've got the funds to have a better squad without Wilf. But the potential is there. I'll say the potential is there. If we were serious and we wanted to sign a striker, then you can have a healthy debate. Imagine Balogun with Eze, 11 assists with Eduardo Mateta as a striker, people. So imagine him having Balogun up there, for example. I think that will be, debatable. But then again, I just don't see the club paying the premiums that we need to pay to have that better squad. I think realistically, as I see it right now, if Zaha was to leave, I think we'll have a worse squad next season than better squad. Because I don't see us spending the money to improve the squad. And considering how much of a big miss he'll be for us. Josh says, mention Cheick being underrated. Who do you think is our most overrated by outsiders? I don't. This feels bad saying it, but I know who it is because I speak to a lot of fans from other clubs, and his name gets mentioned a lot. But based on previous form to how he's playing right now, I think Tyrick Mitchell is probably overrated by outsiders a lot. I see a lot of teams still say that they'll take Mitchell over the current options, which in this current run of form, I don't think he's hit their highs that he has hit previously. But I think he's just gone through a rough spell of form. But yeah, I think from outsiders, I think it's definitely Tyrick Mitchell. Due to what I hear about what other fans say about him. But let me know what you guys think as well. Who do you think is the most overrated by outsiders? Because I can't think of anyone else that's overrated, to be fair. I think we have more underrated players than overrated. Which striker do you think will lead us this season? This is scary. If Wilf was to sign another contract with us, I think it could be Wilf. I think that's what I'm leaning towards. I think Wilf could be the replacement because strikers, as I said, come at an expense. So most likely him. But if it ain't Wilf, then honestly, Colin, I'm not going to lie. God knows. God knows who will be leading us this season. And it better not be Edouard and Mateta. I'll be fuming. I'll be fuming after all of this is Edouard and Mateta when we know that they're not good enough to lead us next season. It's clear, it's evident. So most realistic right now, I think it will be Wilf if he was to sign for us. But yeah, I'm scared that it might be Edouard or Mateta. Dan says, Dee, seeing us linked with Adams, think this would be a good signing. What's your thoughts? You know what? I was gonna actually say Cheick Adams as well because I could see something like that happening. But then again, I'll get slated if I say what I say. But I think Cheick Adams is not as bad as I think Edouard and Mateta. I think he's still got something in him that could be potentially unlocked with better creative players around him. Southampton, they didn't have their best players at the time. That's why they got relegated. A lot of inexperience as well at that squad. So I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world to take a gamble on Adams, but realistically, we should be doing better than Cheick Adams as well. Look, if you ask me, would I rather take Cheick Adams over Edouard Mateta? 100%. I'll take the risk. I'll take the gamble. If that costs £50 million, I'll pay £50 million for Cheick Adams, even though I just said like 10 minutes ago that we shouldn't be doing that. But as a depth option, if it was maybe even sign Wilf and sign Cheick Adams as like a number 2, I'll do that. I think he's better than Mateta. Edouard is debatable. You can have that debate, but I think it's better than Mateta for me, anyways, in terms of actual footballing ability. Rainbow says Zaha underrated as fuck. Yeah, he is. He has been. True, he has been. But now people are starting to rate him because he's a free agent, and now everyone wants him. So that's how this game works. He's underrated until people have the potential to sign him, and it's like, oh, we should get Zaha. But then you've been spending the last 10 years slating the guy, saying he's overrated, and all of a sudden you want to rate him. That's what always happens anyways with some of these players. The question is, do we rely on Zaha until his legs fall off, or do we decide that now is a good time for a transition? I think either way, I don't think we pretty much lose out. I've said it before. I don't think Wilf should be playing out wide as often as he has done previously. I think we're slowly reaching that stage with Zaha that he needs to think about his future, because the legs, as you said, Mitch, is only going to get slower. And I think he's got the ability. He needs to find an alternative position. I think that might be through the centre. We've seen it with other players as well. As the years going by, as they get older, they change the position. I don't think next season is going to be the season where his legs just fall off, because I think he's still a very good player. But in the next 2 to 3 years, it could be interesting in terms of how much speed he's got left, and whether he can do it out wide. I'm loving Mitchell. He's still a kid holding down our left back. He had to learn sink or swim or swam. Yeah, he's still learning. He needs competition. That's what he needs right now. I just can't justify the asking price for Balogun. It's daylight robbery. Well, you can say that about us as well. For some of our players, I don't think it's the case, but it's like, for example, Joachim Andersen or Mark Gay. I've had this debate a lot. People laughed at me from other fans saying that Gay is worth £60 million. They're like, what? Is it worth maximum £40 million? It's because that's how much we value him, right? So with Balogun, you can see it as daylight robbery, but what striker, what other alternatives do we have out there? I mean, I don't know. There's isn't anyone that comes into my head that'll be cheaper, that'll be better option than Balogun. I think it'll be a risk. I'm not saying it'll be 100% successful, but from his actual abilities and what he can offer, he offers more, even off the ball and on the ball. Forget about goals than what we have right now up front. Gregory says, really looking forward to, about 2 weeks from today from seeing live in Chicago our beloved Crystal Palace squad. Don't care if it's a preseason match in the first visit to us in the past 7. Yes, people, there's going to be a few people from the back of the Nest crew that's going to be there as well. Pretty sure Patrick and T will be going to the games. I'm not too sure if Stan is. I think he's not going to be going. Unfortunately, I can't. Because I've got a holiday the week after and I can't afford Chicago, but maybe next preseason, you never know. You never know. Maybe back of the Nest on tour could actually happen. But these guys are Prem proven. Yeah, you can have that debate. But I mean, what other alternatives do we have out there? I mean, strikers always are expensive. That's the whole point. Like, it's expensive. Unless you go for the cheaper option, then that's it. He had a very good season over in France, Balogun, and I think that's why his cost is what it is. So if Arsenal want to charge 40 million euros or 50 million, then I get what you're saying. I'm not disagreeing. I get what you're trying to say. Like, you can have that debate. Is it one good season? Is it worth 40, 50 million? But in today's market, look at today's market. Like, it's crazy. The numbers out there is crazy. It's crazy inflated. So it is what it is. It is what it is. But look, people, I'm going to wrap up the show. If you have enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like and subscribe and let us know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Thanks to every single one of you that's been tuning in to these episodes as we try to do it as daily as possible. I know we kind of slack on the weekends, but there's not that much that happens. But look, there's more coming with Palace this week. We got Crawley. We got Watford as well on the weekend. So a few more preseason games, a place to watch out for. And of course, hopefully this is the week that we actually react to Ed Zaha confirmation, whether he's leaving or going. I want it to happen this week. Hopefully it does happen this week. But that's it from me. Hopefully you all have a safe day wherever you are. It's probably maybe 9 o'clock in the morning if you're over in Australia. I don't even know the time, so maybe it is over in America. But look, people, that's it from me. And until next time, up the Palace.